Alright everyone, we've seen some legal persecution over the last year, but this one I think takes the cake. The Jack Smith Council is literally seeking to prevent Donald Trump from criticizing the FBI, actually, at this moment, which is blatantly, nakedly unconstitutional, totally averse to any premise under the First Amendment that you could possibly imagine. And no reasonable person would interpret this as proper. The fact is that the Jack Smith Council asking for a gag order on Donald Trump to prevent him from effectively criticizing the FBI is so far out of line. I mean, I can't imagine that the judge is going to even go through with this. We'll read a little bit of this verbatim. Prosecutors called the claim, this is Trump about the FBI, deceptive and inflammatory in a court filing, and said it subjected agents to unjustified and unacceptable risks, despite the fact that their names are not publicly known. Smith has asked the presiding judge, Eileen Cannon, to bar Trump, the Republican candidate in the November 5th election, from making statements that pose a threat to law enforcement while awaiting trial. How do you determine that it poses a threat to law enforcement? I mean, if I threaten an LEO, of course that's a threat to law enforcement. Say, I'm going to kill this cop or something. That would be quite, I mean, it would already be illegal. You're making a criminal threat against a law enforcement officer. You might end up in court. But that being said, it would be entirely subjective and ultimately up to the court to determine what would constitute threats to law enforcement, assuming that this is followed through with. Well, I mean, would that be base criticism? I mean, if he doxes a bunch of FBI agents or something like that, so he just names them and shames them publicly, I mean, you could construe that as a threat to the so-called law enforcement. Not that the FBI is anything but a bureau, but, you know, in that sense. Trump's lawyers have urged Cannon, whom Trump nominated to the bench, that's a little bit helpful, by the way, to reject Smith's request, saying it would violate Trump's free speech rights, it would, in the heat of the presidential campaign. They also argued that prosecutors had not presented evidence of threats against the FBI. I think that Cannon is the only one that's sane in regards to the cases against Trump, probably partially because she was appointed by him. She's the only one that's actually acting with any real dignity, and like there's actually a fair trial. Not that she hasn't indefinitely postponed it. Personally, if I was Trump, I'd just want to fucking get it over with. Just, you know, have it out, and, you know, if they find me guilty, they find me guilty. I don't really give a shit. Cannon probably gives him a suspended sentence anyway, or something like that. To disallow a person simply because they're under legal hazard. So you haven't found them guilty of anything. You haven't determined they've committed any crime at all. Preventing that person, barring them having been already found guilty, from being able to speak about whatever the hell they want is so blatantly unconstitutional. I mean, it doesn't even come close to passing muster under the First Amendment. Even liberals should be outraged by this. You're not allowed to criticize the FBI? Well, maybe we should prevent the liberals from being able to criticize the government at large. Well, why can't Trump go judge shopping and get random liberal commentators and say, well, you know, you're causing a hazard to the safety of the members of my bureaus. You're not allowed to talk about it anymore. Why couldn't he do that? That would be a big, big problem, by the way. We've opened up one hell of a can of worms just by prosecuting Trump at all. And I never supported it to begin with. This sort of thing, my God. Not even allowed to criticize the FBI. No, you're not allowed to say anything mean about them, about the people that raided Melania's underwear drawer and charged it into Barron Trump's room, probably terrifying him in the process if he was there, gunpoint, and then, randomly sorted through his Legos or something like that. They broke his Lego sets. You know, it's basically a crime against humanity. That's nuts. The fact that Jack Smith would even ask this is nuts. I know reasonable person would ask something like this. He's causing death threats against FBI employees. Okay, he hasn't named any of them. You don't even know their names. They're FBI. You know, they can cover the name on their badge if they want to and get away with it. But they don't even have any evidence that there were any threats, that there was any animus towards them. Yeah, people are angry at the FBI in the generic sense. Okay? Unless you identify yourself as an FBI agent to your neighbors, probably you're a little bit above that fray. Where do you work? Oh, I'm in security, or something like that. I know that there are probably people that do that at this point. Cannon previously denied the request on procedural grounds after she found that prosecutors had not adequately consulted with Trump's lawyers before filing it. Trump faces gag orders limiting his public statements in another federal case, also overseen by Smith, accusing him of attempting to overturn his defeat in the 2020 election and a case in New York that led to his conviction in May for falsifying business records. Can I please ask every reasonable member of the public one really important thing? How many gag orders does Donald Trump need to be under before it becomes abundantly clear, even to people that don't like him? They may support it, but it becomes clear to them that this is an attempt at persecution for political reasons. And under no other auspices, if this had happened to literally any other presidential candidate in U.S. history, there would already be riots. Only because Donald Trump has been astroturfed as uniquely villainous by a willing system, by the legacy media, big tech, political uniparty, etc. Only because of that are people even tolerating this bullshit. The fact that he was charged was precedent breaking. It's the first time since the 1700s that that's happened. Now they're trying to prevent him from speaking while he's waging a presidential campaign. So is he going to get dragged off in cuffs because he says the wrong thing at the presidential debate? You're putting one hell of an onus on this dude. I mean, he's a multi-billionaire and a former president, but you still have to sort of feel sorry for him at one point. I think that this is bullshit. It's intolerably bullshit. Cannon should strike it down and say, no, I'm not going to gag him at all. Believe it or not, it's legal to criticize the FBI. It's legal to criticize members of law enforcement. No, the court does not have the power to prevent a person from doing that. He hasn't even been found guilty of anything. You think that he's guilty of something, you're prosecuting him, but you're not allowed to flat out persecute him. That should be Cannon's decision. That's about all. Peace out.